it really is going to, I mean, no matter what, no matter how this thing turns out, you can't allow this kind of shenanigans to go on. Even if you're trauma bonded and codependent with the abuser, with your psychopath, and you believe the psychopath still loves you and is going to give you flowers and chocolate when you vote. Even if you, and I'm sorry, I don't mean to be patronizing you. I know some people really feel about this, very strongly about this, but look, the international community is not going to allow an act of war, because these are acts of war, okay? These are high treasonous acts. It's not going to be allowed to continue. The Attorney General said as much in an interview, depending on how this thing goes out. So there's a lot of things that we thought we were going to hear about before that are now being delayed until after. No matter what, this is not going to win. They're just trying to make it really, really messy, okay? That's all it's about. But they're not going to be winning, because the whole thing is based on fraud. It is not a legitimate situation. It's a fraudulent situation. It is based in fraud, and therefore you're not actually voting in a fair way, to say the least. It is a totally messed up, crazy, distorted situation. Nothing can stop what is coming. No matter how it turns out, we're still going to get what we want, which means, thank God, we're almost there. No matter what, this is what's going to lance the boil. This is what's going to get us this information that's been hidden for so long. But it's very intense, and you can help by voting. Back to the slide. Are you ready to hold the political elite protected accountable? Hell yes, we are. Are you ready to take back control of this country? That's what just came out on Halloween night. Nothing can stop what is coming is not just a catchphrase. Are you ready to hold the elite accountable? Are you ready to take back control? Are you ready to finish what we started? And there were several of these, and I integrated them into one slide. Okay. Then we had nothing until today. This was just earlier today, November 2nd. And this is where I felt a huge sigh of relief. Finally, the day before, when it's really too late to sway, they actually said this, or they linked to this rather. Blank's early vote lead is not enough, and they know it. Dems plan to call at real blankety blank election day surge a red mirage to delegitimize his wave of support. They will try to create a smokescreen post-election day, even running TV ads to cast a doubt on the November 3rd vote. Be ready. So it's really, really silly, but yes, this is what's going to happen. But guess what, folks? If people vote for the guy you don't like, and the votes are legitimate and they're counted legitimately, you still have to deal with it. If it's 4 more years, it's 4 more years. It's not forever. You're going to get your life back. There's going to be other people. There's going to be other leaders. There's going to be a better... If you don't like the situation we're in, there's going to be a better one. But I don't know about you. I want to know what's in these 100,000 plus sealed indictments. I want to know what there is that's all this buildup is about. I want to know why these people would be willing to burn everything to the ground, risk everything, go so ridiculously far that Hitler marching on Stalingrad, which caused his defeat in World War II, as the Russians slashed and burned everything along the way, there was no food for the troops, no shelter for the troops, and they starved and they died. Okay? This kind of battlefield error is much, much bigger than one bad move by one person. This is a complex, interconnected series of very, very bad moves. And remember, too, the popular vote does not determine the election. The vote is won by electoral votes. So we all have these districts in the U.S., and you vote in your district, and then all those votes go to the person who runs your local electoral college, your local representative for that. And then that person makes their own discernment of what electoral vote they will cast, and they don't actually have to use the public vote. If exculpatory evidence comes out that gets one person free and clear and makes the other person look very guilty of something, and they can see that, but the public is not seeing it clearly, they could change their electoral vote. It's controversial. It doesn't happen very often, but it could. So what we're really looking at is who gets to the 270 electoral vote margin first. Who gets that number first? And that is based, it's supposed to be based on voting. So here again, what we're seeing is they already know it's going to be a landslide. They might not know exactly how much. There's some gray area in it, but it is not going to be anything but a landslide. And they know that, and so they're going to have to call it a mirage. They're going to run ads. They're going to do all this stuff to try to say this isn't real, this isn't legitimate. So please help make it as legitimate as possible. So going back to the slide here, the polls are complete nonsense. And I will show you this by considering the cycles of history. And I'll just say I might know a little something about history repeating itself. After all, I did write an entire book on it called The Synchronicity Key, in which I go into a very detailed analysis of cycles of history. It is 10 o'clock in our local time here. I am aware that, it's very late for some people. I'm sorry about that. We got a very late start. And I am going to wrap this up pretty quick. This is the last little section, folks. So we've got about a half an hour to go. If you're tired, I'm sorry. Hang in there. So let's look at the cycles of history. What was Huffington Post saying on Election Day 2016, November the 8th? Well, they presented something on their front page in which they had a very, very scientific analysis of the percentage of simulations where each candidate becomes president. So this is supposed to be a super advanced scientific process where you look at all these simulations, all these different polls, the most intelligent, high-octane, super advanced, super scientific simulations that are based on real-world scientific data to determine which candidate is going to become president. This was the front page of Huffington Post on the day of the election at 2:38 p.m. Now, the first thing you see is here's this woman just laying it down, scorching him. Judge torches T's lawyers, offensive. And then read down here. This is the bottom of what you just saw, just so you can see this, right? Look at the bottom of where she is, her picture, and you see the word fear. Let's read this. The fear is that T will reject the election result. This campaign has shattered norms. He's a fascist, admires authoritarianism. Our republic is on the brink. He is a demagogue. The right's failure to see it is a disgrace. This is a referendum on hate. And now you got to go over to the right-hand side. You see that on the front page at 2:38 p.m. where it says presidential forecast? Well, let's just jump over ahead to that real quick here. And let's see exactly what it says. I'm going to zoom in on this, folks. The percent of simulations where each candidate becomes president. Clinton, 98.0% likely to win. T, 1.7%. This was on the day of the election, folks, at 2:38 p.m. 98% chance out of all a meta-analysis of all the polls, all the simulations, 98%. Oh, well, how we calculate this? Do you see that at the bottom? Yeah, how we calculate this. Wouldn't I love to know that? Because this is some real hoodoo voodoo kind of legerdemain crazy stuff going on here. Well, let's click on it for the election forecast. Let's click on that, how we came up with this, and see what comes up. And then here again, if you look very carefully, you can see it says updated Tuesday, November 8th, 2018 at 12:43 a.m. Eastern Time. So, and they were showing this right at 2:38 p.m. It says, in the event of a tie, the newly elected House of Representatives will elect the president and the newly elected Senate will elect the vice president. And you can see, of course, they're leading because they're saying it's going to be a blue tidal wave, 98%. The newly elected House of Representatives and the newly elected Senate. So they're trying to say there's no way this is going to go any other way. It's unbelievable. Then let's go ahead to 6:41 p.m. Now they're getting really worried. America is in the balance. Florida, tight. And you got 48 electoral votes versus 60. 7:55 p.m. What is the headline? Do you think there's any bias in this headline? Fright night. Down to the wire. Uh-oh. I'm really, really scared, folks. Because it's 137 versus 104. Come on. Come on, 104. Come on. Let's see what you got. 7:56 p.m. Here it is. Same thing. 137 electoral votes. It's all tossed up. 8:57 p.m. He's at 197. 11:50 p.m. Eastern Time. This is very, very late now. 264 electoral votes. But she's right on his heels. And finally, 12:32 a.m., the magical number is crossed. Now, I want you to look at this picture. I want you to look at this picture of the person we're just calling T for right now. And they actually had him sticking his tongue out, folks. Take a look up close. Look at the picture of him. It's as if he's giving you the middle finger. It's as if he's a bully. Ha 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 ha. And look at her. She's like, darn it. So that is bias. That is a political bias that they're not even hiding. They literally have a picture of him sticking his tongue out. What does the headline become as of 1:30 a.m.? Nightmare! President T. Seriously, this is what they did. Whereas Drudge Report, which at the time was actually representing this kind of platform, now it's exactly the opposite. It's a joke. Going there now is a joke. At the time it wasn't. They said, let the people rule. Because this is what the people voted for. Right? The people made this decision. That's what voting is. If they don't like you, you lose. Sorry. That's it. So we're told this time that the results are going to be vigorously contested. Guess what happened in 2016 on the very next day? The front page of history, Huffington Post, it's history now, 10:37 a.m. We must fight for the rule of law. Right, because this can't possibly have been legal. It has to have been Russia, which has now been completely debunked. But that's what they picked. They went with it. Now there's names for it. There's this investigation with a guy whose name starts with D that was supposed to come in before the election. It didn't happen. What does it say right at the bottom here? Now all the fear porn kicks in. Millions are going to lose insurance and other possible headlines from a T presidency. America has jumped off a constitutional cliff. Sounds like 2020, right? An American tragedy. Forget leaving. It's time to fight. We are probably, Paul Krugman says we are probably looking at a global recession with no end in sight, which actually didn't happen until this year. Everything else was doing really good. Now we see how strong the American system really is. So we've jumped off a constitutional cliff. It's a tragedy. It's time to fight. And we're going to have a global recession with no end in sight. Really? And now here we are in 2020. And big tech's got your back. They want to make darn sure that you don't encounter any unconfirmed claims of victory. So here is actually what you see right now when you consult this particular social media giant whose logo you see up at the top in the middle there. And it says right here, election results might be delayed. Oh, really? With the increase in voting by mail, there might be a delay in the announcement of election results. This means that you could encounter unconfirmed claims that a candidate has won their race. You might encounter unconfirmed claims. Election results might be delayed. Well, this is so silly. Honestly, it's like, can't you guys think of something better than to just keep kicking this thing around and bringing us all through your weird global acrimonious divorce? Shouldn't the people be allowed to make up their own mind? Shouldn't they be allowed to be aware of information that might inform their voting? If you're not allowed, I know this sounds like I'm beating a dead horse here, but it's very important. If you're not allowed to have this information, what was the result? The result apparently is a landslide. And I've seen a lot of things talking about these polls. So when you look at what happened in 2016, has anything really changed that much since 2016? No. Is it the same basic people with the same, directors running this? Yes. It's just a different person from that camp. It's one guy instead of one lady than 2016. But they said that there was a 98% chance that she was going to win based on all of the different polls unified together. The grandest, most brilliant, genius, artificially intelligent, peering into the future, looking glass technology to see who's going to win the election, and it's only a 1.7% chance this guy's going to win. And they're telling you that on election day, which would be considered swaying the results. How did they get it so wrong? Because they're lying. They're lying. They're psychopaths. Do you get it yet? That's why it came out that way on HP. Because they're not telling you the truth. So you got to get rid of the polls completely and look at the only polls that really matter, which is how many people show up when you're speaking. And that makes it pretty obvious. Then they're also saying that, oh, well, election results might be delayed, and now we're all hearing about violence, and there's all this stuff about violence. I had 3 different groups that have people from the military, the police, and the intelligence community in them. 3 different groups in 2 different states. They didn't even know me. They didn't. This came from secondhand sources that I got through somebody else's intermediary. 3 different groups, each of which are in a position that they have the tactics and the skills to be able to protect the people. And all 3 of these groups independently got a warning about 2 weeks before and 4 weeks after the election. It was the same data from 3 totally different groups. 2 weeks before and 4 weeks after, high threat of violence, which everybody's talking about. That's why we're going to do this global meditation, is to keep that threat lower, because this technology really works. 11100. Perfect synchronicity. So back to the slide. This anticipated violence that we're hearing about will hopefully not be prolonged. And this is just one aspect here of something. It's from Military Times, the website. And we're going to zoom in on it a little bit here because it says, here's how the National Guard is supporting the November 3rd election. Nobody wants to have their cities smashed up, burned up, looted, destroyed, people getting shot, maybe even mass shootings. Maybe they'll organize a whole bunch of them all over the country. Maybe they'll blow up some stuff. Who the hell knows what they're going to do? It could be anything. But look at what it says up close here. The National Guard is gearing up to activate across the necessary, I can barely even read this, it's so freaking small for this machine, to activate across the country to support the November 3rd general election in several capacities. Their missions range from assisting with cyber defense, working the polls, and standing by in case of post-election civil unrest. So working the polls means they don't want you to have any problem voting. They don't want you to be threatened by violence. And I think that violence card is now being greatly downplayed because so many people are aware of this. And then it says here the National Guard locations, going back to the slide: Alabama, Arizona, Colorado, Delaware, Illinois, Kentucky, Pennsylvania, Tennessee, Texas, Virginia, Washington, and Wisconsin. So, if you are one of those people who are thinking that if this codependent relationship doesn't make it, if you don't get what you want, that you're going to go out and try to hurt people, you should be fully advised that they are on the job big time, okay? Because nobody wants the violence. Nobody wants that. I don't want it. This platform doesn't tolerate it. I would never advocate for it at all. And therefore, if there are steps that can be taken that are non-lethal, that just involve people being arrested and stopped from hurting other people, that is a good thing. It should be a good thing unless you no longer can think for yourself and you somehow think all of this stuff is going to be a great thing if it happens. It's not. So I can tell you that they are very, very tight on this. They have an excellent amount of logistics and planning behind it, and it may actually be quite minimal. So I wouldn't be too afraid about things going on because I think this part of the equation has been ruled out. So back to the slide again. We're not going to worry about that right now because the truth is that we have surprising control over the outcome. We know for a fact that a global meditation causes a 72% reduction in violence. And this global meditation was only done by 7,000 people. And yet they changed the entire world again, creating a 72% reduction in global crime, war, terrorism, and fatalities. And there are at least 39 independent studies that have replicated this effect, which I call the meditation effect, just to keep it, non-denominational. It's for everybody. And this is only one of thousands of data points that I have put together in the course of all my work, saying that the universe is alive and conscious, and there are many benevolent beings out there who are ensuring our safety. Now, the UFO question is one of the things over here. The UFO question is one of the things that's going to come up big time. I expect that after this landslide occurs, that you're going to start really hearing things ramp up, and pretty quickly you're going to hear some very cool stuff, because the president was just asked the other day about the Space Force, and he said that our military has capabilities that are going to blow your mind like nothing you've ever expected to see, and it's all coming out very soon. So technology could take a big, big leap. All kinds of interesting stuff appears to be about to happen. And even the heavily, heavily compromised entity I was talking about before, back to the slide, is now fully acknowledging that UFOs do exist. And this I showed you last time, that the Pentagon has reportedly found off-world vehicles not made on this earth, and they found multiple ones. And what's so weird is they released this stuff, this is from July of this year, and then they never talk about it again. That there's actually multiple crashed discs. They're saying this now. This is coming from the Pentagon, from official sources. Multiple, I think they claimed 7. Last I saw, 7 different crashed discs that we have recovered. Now, the technological bounty that should come off of that alone, if it really is something that's of higher intelligence, better technology than we have, reverse engineering that and the technology that comes off it should be totally amazing. Should have changed our reality completely. That's what the president is now prognosticating, and he's made many other leading statements before that have said that could happen. And we also have to remember that they are trying to spin this thing. What is the name of the program? The Advanced Aerospace Threat Identification Program, the AATIP. And we saw the new movie that they just came out with that drives this narrative along. I think it's called Phenomena or something like that. Unidentified. It's unidentified. It might be unidentified. I forget what it's called. I think it's unidentified. But anyway, if you want stuff that everybody has questioned, and the view counts never were very good compared to what we're doing. They're like 10,000 views per video on the average or less, except for the 3 really amazing little Tic Tac videos that we had. Nothing else really got any views. They're trying to say in this new movie, they're promoting grays. Okay, so at the end of the movie, the big reveal is grays exist. And they showing these little children that saw them, I guess, in the 1970s before anybody knew about it. And they're describing the eyes, and it's very, very dramatic. So it appears that they have at least decided that they're going to tell us that grays exist. They're going to tell us that there are aliens, extraterrestrials. And they want to push that narrative forward. And they want to keep us afraid. So they're also talking about, back to the slide, that UFOs have been seen over nuclear missile installations. And these same articles are trying to say, oh, well, this is a threat. This is a dangerous, bad thing. But let's go back to the Apollo 14 astronaut, Dr. Edgar Mitchell, pictured here, who actually interviewed all these different people from Roswell. And what he ended up seeing was that everybody reported the same stuff. And he was involved in this Robert Hastings UFO event that took place at the National Press Club in 2010. In which, again, many, many witnesses came forward, and they all said that they saw these UFOs appearing over nuclear missile installations and powering them down. And it was non-denominational, non-nationalistic. It works for Russia, China, US, doesn't matter who it is. If you've got them, these things show up and they power them down. Honestly, is that really such a bad thing? Is it really such a threat? If you just exercise your mind a little tiny bit, there is a movie out there right now about the Fatima event. It doesn't have great production value. It's not the best movie, but it's good enough to get the point. I think you got to spend $20 to buy it. You can't rent it. But at the end of the movie, they have this miracle of the sun thing where these little children in the town of Fatima in Portugal ended up attracting 90,000 people, a crowd of 90,000 people, and they see this, what in the original documentation, because nobody had flying saucer as a word back then, they saw a disc of dull silver that was rotating in the air. And they don't say this in the movie, by the way, and they don't dramatize it properly, but they saw this disc of dull silver that would cover over the sun, make everything dark, and then shoot rainbow colors of light across the sky. And they dramatize that at the end of the movie by the sun turning purple and yellow and green and all these colors. And they actually show it, and they show where it happened and all these people and 90,000 people and what that would have looked like. In the modern day era of camera phones, the Fatima event would have been game over for disclosure, and the being that identified itself as coming from this aerial phenomenon was clearly trying to suggest that it was Mother Mary, or at least aligned with Mother Mary in somehow. She never actually said that. She said, "Fear not, I am the angel of peace." Portugal had entered World War I, and the angel of peace was trying to say, we don't want this to happen. So what really is going on, and this is where stuff like my book comes in, again, I'll hold it up here. Awakening in the Dream, Contact with Benevolent ETs. Look, I don't make money on this. I really don't. It's very, very nominal income. I could not support a family. I could not support myself doing this full time. I only write these really not for money, because it's actually a horrible waste of money from the... If I only look at it in terms of what I gain from this, it's nothing. Everything else I do pays much better. But the reason why I do this is to give you something to read and get it internationally distributed all over the world. And I knew this was an important one. This is the history of the benevolent ETs contacting me personally, and all the synchronicities and all the weird stuff that happened. And the messages that they gave me that are now coming true. The prophecies I got in 1996 through 1999, that there would be an uprising from within the military-industrial complex against itself, and that the result of this would be UFO disclosure and freedom from tyranny. And it's already in here. The prophecies are already here. I already received all this stuff. It's real. So the question then becomes, why, back to the slide, would certain groups never want you to know this? Benevolent ET contact happens on a very personal level. It's synchronicity, it's dreams, it's things that other people might tell you you're crazy, but again, get this book. This is what it might look like in the unboxing. You will see that we are being guided through a collective awakening, and the truth can be extremely painful to accept. Many people are dealing with this problem through projection. Projection is where you accuse other people of doing what you yourself are doing, and this is occurring on a massive level. Just ask the big T. And I think they know what's going on, because they accuse others of what they're doing. So let's look at the definition. I type it right into big tech itself, projection definition psychology. Here's what I get. Ed, a licensed clinical social worker, there's probably something else besides Ed. I think this is a bad cut. According to Ed, projection refers to unconsciously taking unwanted emotions or traits you don't like about yourself and attributing them to someone else. Unconsciously taking unwanted... This is what they've been doing the whole time for 5 years. Blaming this man for what they are doing. Blaming this man, implying, every time you saw the photo of this man who had a certain island, right? You always see the photo of this person hanging out with the guy that owned the island. They don't even bother to talk about the fact that other notable political figures also were involved and have many more pictures. Hence, if you can't see the information because of projection, it probably means it's true. The bottom line is, folks, we really know very little about the new guy, who might be the new guy, who's actually the old guy, right? And what if they're attacking and accusing their opponent of what they are doing? This is exactly what is happening, and this is going to require a profound and prolonged healing process for some people who still can't see it, and you have to have compassion for them. they get into what's called cognitive dissonance. So once again, I'm going to look it up with big tech. Cognitive dissonance, and it says here, the state of having inconsistent thoughts, beliefs, or attitudes, especially as relating to behavioral decisions and attitude change. Well, that's not a very good one, but this one on the sidebar is actually better. Let's read this. In the field of psychology, cognitive dissonance occurs when a person holds contradictory beliefs, ideas, or values, and is typically experienced as psychological stress when they participate in an action that goes against one or more of them. So a person is holding contradictory beliefs, ideas, or values, and it manifests as psychological stress when they have to participate in something that goes against more than one of them. So this is what's happening. The world itself is going through, at least the people that were buying into all this stuff from the entity, they're going through cognitive dissonance. And this can be very serious. In laboratory studies with dogs, where they would torture these animals, they found out that when the dog is given two things that are irreconcilable, that are stressful, it will actually have a heart attack from the stress. So it's very intense what happens when people experience cognitive dissonance. So cognitive dissonance is something that creates enormous pain because you have these sets of information in your mind and you want it all to be right, you want it all to be true, but the information grossly conflicts with itself. And this is the basis of disinformation too. You send out, when there's a piece of information that you don't want people to know, you put out another piece of information that discredits it, people believe both of them, the mind says, I don't need this, and it discards it. So you don't think about it anymore. But then when you're forced to look at things that contradict, when new information comes out right before an event that's about to take place tomorrow, new information comes out. You're not allowed to see it. But the information is very, very, very bad. And a lot of people know about it, and it's actually become a big deal. That creates cognitive dissonance because how could that information be true, and how could this also be the thing that I want and the thing that I'm hoping is going to happen? Smoke comes out of your ears. Back to the slide. This is where you come in. This is where all of us who have been studying this all along, and people laughed at us, and people said we were full of BS, this is where we go in and we follow the rule of 10%. Now, what does this mean? This means I don't want you to tell your family members and your friends and whoever is surprised by what happens tomorrow, don't expect them to be very understanding or sympathetic. They're going to be very depressed. It'll probably not happen until the day after or a couple days after, because they're going to be hoping that the red mirage is fake, that this is all, that this can be contested, that it can be overturned. Guess what? You got Amy Coney Barrett there in the Supreme Court. It's not going to be overturned. Electoral votes, okay? It's not going to happen. I'd be very, very surprised if it goes any other way. Follow the rule of 10%. Only say 10% of what you want to say and then stop talking. Just say a little bit, say some of your best stuff, allow the person to think about it and rephrase it in their own words, because this is how you unravel the cognitive dissonance. This is how you get them to go down a line where they eventually are going to say, I really don't like this guy, but isn't it strange that they've been attacking him nonstop for 5 years? And isn't it strange? Etc., 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 etc. This is another question that I think you could ask your friends, and here's the next slide. If you're in a burning house, and the house is going to burn down, and that's America and that's the world, okay? It's happening right now. If the shutdowns continue, we are screwed. If the AI agenda continues and we're stuck at home and we got to wear AI goggles and log into a matrix in order to buy and eat, okay? And there's a fireman who's come to your house and he wants to save your butt. Are you going to ask him for a background check? Are you going to look at every nasty thing that he might have ever said or thought or done? Well, that's what's been happening. And so when you understand that this is not about one guy, it's about a very comprehensive international effort that's ongoing since at least the 1950s, has an extraordinary amount of planning behind it, and is very, very solid. This plan, okay, let's be very clear on this. The one guy that you might be voting for tomorrow, who's involved in the plan, isn't running the plan. He's involved in it, but he's not running it. This is an old thing. It's international. And it's got a lot of stuff involved that you don't know about. They have resolutely said over and over again that we are moving into a world that is not going to be psychopathic, More transparency, no more lying, no more cheating, no more stealing, prosperity funds, the economy gets to recover, stolen money is repatriated to the people, we get to take the power back. And that is exciting, and that is worth fighting for, and that is why people are saying they would crawl naked over broken glass to vote in that voting booth tomorrow, or what is still tomorrow, depending on where you are. In some places it's today now. And I'm trying to keep this short, so we're almost done. Are you going to ask your fireman for a background check? If your house is about to fall over from being on fire in the next 2 minutes, and the new guy is really the old guy who got you into this and bailed it out for $29 trillion, okay? Why don't we let this thing play out? Why don't we just wait and see? And let's find out, what is this information that's going to come to light? How is it going to make us feel? Are we seeing just the very, very beginning of it right now? And in some of the articles that have come out about this showdown between big tech and Congress that just happened, they were saying, we're expecting there's going to be a big, big trove of documents that are going to be released, and we're going to have to make sure nobody reads any of them. I've posted links repeatedly on certain platforms that start with T, and as soon as I post them, they're gone. As soon as I post them, they disappear. I've seen it several times. This is very real. So again, it's scary. So are you going to ask your fireman for a background check? It's not just one person. So even if this person drives you crazy, don't think about it that way. Think about it as men and women in uniform. Think about it as a plan that's been ongoing since the 1950s, that has a whole lot of smart, compassionate, beautiful people that went into it, that designed it, that are doing this to keep you alive, to keep you safe. You don't want to get in the way of this. You don't want... Let's see what they have to say. Let's see what happens when the threat has finally been reduced, when we can exit this dysfunctional relationship without both parties dying, without the planet dying, which, believe me, they want to do that. When it really gets down to the wire, they would gladly blow the whole thing up if they can't control it. So the alliance has taken care of that stuff. There's incredible detail in this plan. The briefings I've had are amazing. The comprehensiveness, the fullness of this whole thing is so amazing. Back to the slide one more. Why don't we just look at the evidence, which we're not allowed to see. Why can't we be cool enough to see the evidence and make our own decisions? What do you guys got to hide? All right, enough of this. It's 10:30. We're going to now end with the meditation practice. Because I have a little buddy over here. Let's go to this camera real quick. And I listen to him sometimes, and he talks to me, and he says, hey, yeah, that might work. I think this might be a good idea. What do you think? Yeah, he says it works, okay? He says it's science, and he says there's science to prove it. I kind of think I believe him. It's Jesus, okay? So this is the real-world equivalent of how we get this to work, how we get the result that we want to have. Let's go to this number 4 wide shot here real quick, and I'll show you the whole room. You get to see everything, okay? And then I told you there's some funny transition effects you can play with the slider, where you get the green button and the red button, and you can fade me in and out. I'd like you to keep both feet flat on the floor. Take a nice deep breath in and just let it go. And by the way, the last I saw, we had 11,000. How many do we have right now? 11,025. 11,025. We are past the number of 5,000, which is all it takes to get the 72% reduction. Okay? And you don't have to believe this is going to work. Just please do this with me anyway. I want you to take a nice deep breath in and allow yourself to relax. And by the way, you can be going on all different camera angles as I do this. Just keep taking it from different shots. Take another nice deep breath in and let it go. Feeling yourself relaxing all over your body, every pore opening up and relaxing. Feeling so comfortable, so relaxed, so much at peace in this moment, here and now. Allowing waves of radiant love to pass through your body, envisioning the possibility, however remote it may seem, that the world heals, that the world is transformed, that the world is reborn. Meditating even more deeply now on everyone having enough money, enough food, enough water, healthy air to breathe, clean water to drink and to bathe in and to use for sanitation. Envision a world without lying, treachery, manipulation, cunning, and deceit. Envision a world with relationships with your leaders that you really appreciate and trust. That trust is rebuilt. That trust is earned. That results are shown. That the economy improves. That children are no longer being singled out for unspeakable acts. That prosperity returns. That everyone is happy and smiling. The world is given amazing new things, a wealth that was held back and is now set free. Breathing ever more deeply, imagining, however impossible it might seem, that we finally get official recognition of the truth, that we are not alone in the universe. Envisioning that amazing event where the negativity is rooted out, perpetrators are called out for what they have done, lies are exposed, hidden secrets are revealed. And as you breathe ever more deeply, going deeper and deeper into this state of pure consciousness, pure love, pure awareness, you feel yourself going softer and softer, becoming lighter and lighter, feeling the possibility that maybe for once the world can change out of this system that keeps you just barely alive, and instead revivifies the soul and the spirit, makes you feel happy about getting up, that you have prosperity, you have a good, honest job, or however it is that you earn money, it's done easily. Yes, there is hard work, but it's well rewarded. We go to a level of prosperity we never thought imaginable, where everyone has enough, and we don't have to fight amongst ourselves over the have and the have-nots. Everyone is taken care of. There's a much greater sense of renewal and peace, and this can never happen again. Remember the all-important quote, I think it was 2170, we will make sure this will never happen again. The full truth must be exposed, even if it hurts those in positions of power. And let's just give an appreciation of how certain folks in power now feel it is the end of the world. They are very scared. Surround them in light, as odious as they may seem. See if you can appreciate how scared they are. See if you can appreciate that they think this will be the end of their lives, that they will not live through this. See if you can appreciate that they would do anything possible and lie to any extent imaginable to try to stop this from happening, to try to stop this eventuality from taking place. And remember, all we have to do is just feel into this. Feel this warm current of love flowing through you. How your body feels so relaxed. And as you breathe ever more deeply, you are so deeply relaxed, so deeply at peace with yourself, easing into that deeper, deeper relaxation, easing into that feeling of effortless love. Love that just happens. Love that doesn't require work or sacrifice. It's just there for everyone, all the time. Easing into that love, easing into that relaxation, easing into that confidence. There really are benevolent, loving, spiritual beings in the universe. They love you more than you can possibly imagine. They are protecting you. They don't get too involved in politics. No, they don't. But they certainly are steering our destiny, making sure that the planet does not end in a nuclear wasteland, making sure that we do not end in an artificial intelligent, Terminator-style Skynet takeover of the planet, which is much closer and much scarier than we ever thought. Easing into that comfort, that release of fear, that release of anger, that release of sadness, that release of depression. What we've all been waiting for so long, to truly taste free air, to truly live a life of prosperity and freedom, where we are no longer being lied to, and ultimately we step back into a Star Trek society. New technologies and new friends who are much more advanced than we are, but are willing to lend a hand, as long as we can work things out here and clean our own house. Identify the psychopathic relationships on the global level that have gone on for far too long. And seeing what happens when this alliance of hundreds of thousands of highly classified people working on highly classified things all comes out in the open. This enormous effort of so many hundreds of thousands of sealed indictments all comes out. The knowledge is revealed. We guide and shepherd others through the upsetting release of cognitive dissonance, the acceptance that the information they had in their minds was wrong, that the opinions that they were told to formulate were incorrect. Nobody is perfect, but it's nowhere near as bad as what you were told. And actually finding out, you know what, maybe this was a good thing. In fact, wait a minute, it's definitely a good thing. This is what it takes to get the planet back. This is what it takes to have freedom, to defend our freedom. This is what it takes to get new technology that will improve and even save our lives. Transform our planet, transform our ecology, clean up the garbage, clean up the oceans. We have all the ways to do this right now. Feeling so deeply relaxed, so deeply at peace, seeing this wave of love beginning in yourself, feeling it in your own body, all that wave of beautiful, loving relaxation. And now I invite you to spread that love out, to feel that love radiating outside of you, radiating out into the world, radiating out into others. Feel that love engulfing others so that they choose not to do anything drastic tomorrow, not to go out and create violence, chaos, anarchy, destitution, not to hurt other people, but to all join in looking at this cosmic journey together, in witnessing the result, in being brave enough to see that the result is not the end of the world. A landslide is not the end of the world. It is not a mirage. It is not a lie. It is not a hoax. It is not caused by a foreign country. It's actually the will of we, the people. Whether that will is honored and acknowledged on the internet or not, whether you can even have that belief or not. See this love right now, because this works outside of linear time. See it engulfing the planet. Feel the whole planet rising to a level of unconditional love, which is hard-earned after the psychopaths in our midst have been exposed and defeated. A world in which we are not dominated by those whose frontal lobes do not even run. They don't even have cognitive activity happening in the centers of emotion, forgiveness, compassion, patience. They only know domination and fear and control and manipulation, and they get off on it, and they have to have it all the time, or they're not happy. And they'll do anything to get it back. See this wave of love enhancing life on earth, enhancing the quality of life. All the people living in poverty, hunger, starvation, pain, agony, fear. Their quality of life improving, because finally, once we address the central problem, the real issue that's underneath all the bad things that are going on in the world, there is a central cause. There is something out there that wants to cause harm and suffering and pain and chaos and destitution. And the people who participate in this, the part of their brain that's going to think about love and compassion and peace and forgiveness and kindness, it's not even running. It's not even on. It just doesn't run. And it takes a long time of trauma healing and PTSD recovery to bring that memory back, to accept the trauma, and to reinvigorate that part of the brain. See this love enveloping the earth. See the new technologies that we deserve to have finally being released. It's not going to happen right away, but it will indeed take place. Feel the love even for those who have been perpetrators. We understand. We understand that you were born into this, that it's generational, that it's gone on for hundreds of years. We understand, and we are sorry that you were tortured from the time you were born and brought into this thing. We understand how horrible your life is, that we couldn't go through the torture you go through, or it would cause a dissociative split in our psyche. We understand how much you're suffering, and we invite you. There is still time to step forward, to be a hero, to become a whistleblower, to do the right thing, to tell the truth that they told you you could never say. Be brave. Be strong. You can still redeem all of your karma by becoming a whistleblower. You don't have to go through anything bad. You still have a chance. You still have a possibility of restitution, paying back, doing the right thing, becoming a hero. Regardless of what you've gone through, we will support you. We will support you in being a hero. We know the swamp has to turn against itself. We know the deep state has to arrest itself. That's the point. So that only those who are the worst holdouts, who simply will not change from their psychopathic belief structures, only those have to be put on trial. And many others can finally turn this around and do the right thing. We pray for them. We surround them with light. We ask them, please, do the right thing. Please, take the deal and become a hero. Your karma will be richly rewarded for this, because the planet needs your help. We need you to step forward. We need you to do the right thing and to tell the truth. Now and forever. Envelop this love throughout the whole planet. Envision all people feeling happy, smiling and laughing, having something to look forward to. They wake up and they say, my God, It looked like we were all going to die. It looked like the end of the world, and now look at what happened. Now look at this. Look at how beautiful it is now. Look at how much things have changed. Everybody's happy. Everybody's smiling. We're all walking around looking at each other in awe. Our eyes tell the story of how amazing this thing was. Who could have imagined that something like this was going to happen, and yet we knew it had to? We knew that the good, compassionate people had to rise up, had to see this for what it is. They had to do something, and it had to be all very, very covert until the final moment, because the threat was so high, the retribution was so high. And how do you possibly oppose something that owns the communications, owns the lines of communication, and enforces its own opinion above all else? Create that sense of satisfaction right now. I invite you to do this. Allow yourself, even if you can only do it in your imagination, to just imagine this positive future. The exposure and defeat of true negativity, the root cause of the problem, finally being talked about where everybody understands it. And there's no more pain, there's no more fear, there's no more poverty. Countless amounts of money are repatriated into the system. We rebuild, and we rebuild better with new technology that is given to us, that we have earned, that scientists invented and were repressed and suppressed. And we actually can meet our long-lost, benevolent relatives who look a lot more like us than we would ever imagine, and they've always been around, just not ready to show themselves until we were grown up enough to be ready for that contact, which means we no longer are engaging in projection. We acknowledge the shadow in ourselves. We heal and we love ourselves despite how effed up we are, despite how wretched we are, all the flaws in our character, all the inaccuracies in our being, even despite the fact that we do not feel worthy many times, knowing that we are worthy of love, we are worthy of freedom, we are worthy of respect, we are worthy of kindness, we are worthy of being told the truth, we are worthy of this. We are worthy of being given disclosure and being given a free, fair, sane, balanced, and prosperous planet. We invoke this with the power of the Almighty One Infinite Creator. We invoke this power now. We use it benevolently. We wish only for the liberation of this planet through whatever strange and circumlocuted way it might be coming in, even to the point that it may seem upsetting and we may not understand anything about what's going on. We create that receptive space of love. We invite love to fill that space. We invite in love to transform people on this planet so that we get through this next few weeks with no violence or very little, or that the violence is quickly subdued by benevolent forces working in our highest and best interest. And we send this love to all those we care about, thinking now about how we might reach out to them in the coming days as very upsetting information clouds their mind and creates cognitive dissonance, and they can't get out of bed. And they're so depressed and they're so mortified at what they've learned that we call them or we visit them and we follow the rule of 10%. We don't overwhelm them, and we allow them to put it together slowly in a safe environment without demanding that they think that we are correct. Just giving them things to think about and letting them toss it over and say several sentences in response to every piece of information we give. That is the pattern. That is how we do this on a grassroots level, circumventing all of the suppression of freedom of speech. And now, lastly, I want you to send this love to yourself. Envision yourself looking in the mirror at yourself. And you don't need to be so hard on this person. You don't need to feel that this person's life is hopeless. You don't need to feel that this person hasn't met up to your expectations. There's no need to be worried about how this person looks. Even if your face is as tired as an old leather shoe with all those creases. God still loves you. I still love you. The Creator still loves you. Whatever you want to call it. There's a lot of people who care about you in the higher realms and here. Please don't forget that. You are not alone, and you are not forgotten. And the next wave of compassion that will be triggered by this global awakening will lead to sweeping changes in finance, in governance, in every aspect of society that we could possibly think of. Science and technology, medicine, health, you name it, diet. So many positive things are coming. And we're finally at this moment. We just have to get through this last little bit. So love yourself, please. Give yourself that gift of just acceptance. Look at yourself in the mirror and accept this person. Love this person. Give this person a break. Why do you have to be so hard on this person? You don't need to be anymore. Let yourself be okay. Let yourself be loved. Let yourself be good enough. I know you have goals. I know you have things you want to achieve, and that's good. And you can love yourself now even before those goals that you hope for have come into being. And now imagine yourself seeing brilliant white light, gleaming, beautiful, pure, radiant, resplendent white light. Breathe this light in. Use the power of your breathing to inhale the light. And as you inhale and then exhale that light and continue doing that, nice and slow. Imagine that light intensity building in yourself. Imagine that frequency increasing, that vibration becoming higher. That no pain needs to come and harm you anymore. That no sadness needs to prevail on earth anymore. That this is possible. We can change our world. And there is an operation underway to make this happen. And it is happening right in front of your eyes, whether you see it or not. And as you see this white light and as you keep inhaling it in and letting it go, you might want to ask that light a question. Whatever is a pressing thing that you'd love to know more about right now. It could be something about yourself. It could be something about how you could be more loving. Whatever it is, hold your question. Whatever is your burning question right now. Hold that vision of gleaming white light. Ask your question. I will give you about a minute of silence now. And just tune in and listen in this receptive space. Here we go. You might see visual images. You might hear little murmuring sentences or thoughts. Whatever it is, just go with it. We hold all of these truths to be self-evident, that all men and women are created equal, that we are endowed by our Creator with unalienable rights. And those rights deserve to be protected and fought for today. And we thank all of those in the higher realms who have been diligently working to make sure this is as peaceful of a transition as possible. And we send our energy forth to enact that peace here on earth, to activate that peace, to activate that awakening, that ascension on a global level. And so it is. And now I ask you to open your eyes, return back to the room with me, It is 9:57 p.m. Eastern Pacific time, so 10 o'clock Pacific time, which makes it 11, 12, 1 a.m. Eastern time. So I need to get the heck out of here because you need to go to bed, especially if you're on the East Coast, if you're still with me. How many folks do we have right now watching live? 9,800. We're above the 7,000 mark, folks. That's awesome. Thank you for watching this. Thank you for continuing to support us, whether it's through watching the movies, the books. And I said I'm not going to do any fundraising, so I won't. But we will see you next time. And I hope that all these prophecies turn out to be true and it isn't some wildly upsetting different thing that happens than what it sure looks like is going to be happening based on our best sources of intel. Thank you. Here's my big room. Let's go camera number 4. I'm giving you all a big hug, a big global hug. And I thank you for watching and I thank you for your support. And hopefully, as long as I don't get deplatformed, we'll see you next time. This is David Wilcock and Elizabeth Wilcock. This was sponsored by our foundation, the Wilcock Spiritual Healing Foundation, which financed much of the equipment that you're now seeing and that we're using. So this is a good way for us to use our nonprofit to give something back. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you very soon. And please, please, whatever it takes, tomorrow, get out and vote. And we'll see you on the other side of this amazing global initiation. I'm David Wilcock. Thanks for watching.